All right there, everyone. Why BLEXIT promises to be a revolutionary declaration of independence for Black Americans. Has to be talking about on today's video. But first, a huge shout out to all of our first-time viewers. A very warm welcome to you. I post 2 videos a day, analyzing current events and light some pretty awesome conservative trends. So if you would, please smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel. And also for everyone, we have a brand new Yellow Vest Uprising shirts and mugs at our storefront at the link below. So if you want to help support our channel and show your solidarity with the Yellow Vest protesters, well then make sure to get your new mug and t-shirt down below. All right, so this past weekend, hundreds of people gathered from across the United States to help kick off the inaugural BLEXIT rally in Los Angeles, California. BLEXIT being, of course, a term that signifies Black Americans declaring their independence from the Democratic Party. On average, blacks vote around 95% for the liberal Democratic candidate nationally, and BLEXIT is a movement that seeks to end that secular, liberal, cultural, Marxist hegemony over the black vote here in the United States. The BLEXIT campaign was founded by the wonderful Candace Owens, who's a very young, very powerful voice in the conservative movement, and she actually quipped, she was interviewed by Breitbart News, she quipped that many Latinos have come up to her and said, hey, we want part of this. We want to be part of this movement too. We'll be the L in BLEXIT, all right? So you have blacks and Latinos uniting together and welcoming a new age of conservative nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. Now, among the great lineup of speakers, you had the Pasadena mayor, Major Williams, who's another young and upcoming force in conservative politics. And all the speakers really echoed the same themes. It's time for blacks and Latinos to exit from the liberal ideology that has poisoned their communities. That's an exhortation from the BLEXIT website itself. It's time for blacks and Latinos to fully embrace the politics of the future, the new nationalism, populism, and traditionalism that promises to breathe new life into their communities so they can personally and professionally and socially flourish. That's, of course, what this channel is all about, analyzing current events in light of pretty awesome conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. This is why Jordan Peterson is so popular, as well as Candace Owens, the BLEXIT founder. Gone is any semblance of victimization with this new conservatism. You'll never, ever, ever be caricatured as a victim. Gone is any semblance of that. And instead, we stand for personal responsibility, respect, a return of wisdom and virtue, the centrality of faith and family, of living in truth, of fostering a love of nation, culture, custom, and tradition as the foundation for a flourishing personal, professional, and national life. This is the political and cultural priority of the new conservatism, and increasingly new movements that it's generating, such as the wonderful BLEXIT movement. Now, I think the potential for BLEXIT is enormous. Zogby poll, it's a survey, it was released back in May of just this last year, showed that black support for Democrats was down 20% since January of that year, 20% in 6 months. Another relatively recent poll surveyed black women. It was found at Black Women's Roundtable Essence poll that black women, who are in many respects the heart of the black voting constituency for the Democratic Party, the poll found that a significant number of black women were noticeably abandoning the party. According to the survey, this was back in 2016, black women supported the Democratic Party by an overwhelming 85%. But in 2018, that number fell to 74%. It's an 11-point drop. Further, we can even see some, well, frankly, populist sentiments developing in the poll as well. The percentage of black women who said that neither party represented them jumped from 13% in 2016 to 21% in 2017. So, of course, well, there's no sign that they're joining the Republican Party en masse, that's for sure. Republicans still remain quite unpopular among blacks. But having said that, I'm sure many of you heard, after Kanye West came out and supported Donald Trump and tweeted out a selfie with him wearing a MAGA hat and, the Make America Great Again hats, support for Donald Trump among black men surged. And this according to the results of a Reuters weekly tracking poll that found that President Trump's support among black men doubled from 11% to 22% in the span of a week at the end of April of 2018, just shortly after Kanye came out in support of him. In fact, Trump has consistently had an abnormally high support among black men throughout his presidency. Actually, at one point, he was polling as high as around 35, 36% approval. He actually won the presidency with a record support of black vote, I think second only to, believe it or not, Bob Dole back in 96. And this turn by blacks away from Democrats is having definite political effects. I don't know how many of you remember the difficulties that Missouri's Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill was facing with black voters within her constituency when she was running for re-election last year. McCaskill, who of course is white, got blasted by some black activists at a town hall meeting who accused her of not caring about the needs of the black community. You know, she's just not doing anything for them. She's taking them for granted and that kind of thing. And so when McCaskill drafted a letter that was designed to defend her record of support for black political interests, black Missouri lawmakers actually refused to sign it because they basically agreed with these activists. At the very least, they knew that they signed it, many blacks would feel betrayed. And of course, McCaskill went on to lose, and lose quite soundly, her Senate seat in November. So clearly things aren't looking very good for the Democratic Party at the moment if their number one constituency is beginning to have second thoughts. So what's going on here? Why this noticeable turn away from the Democratic Party by one of their most loyal constituents? Well, as we've talked about before in other videos, I think we're seeing the limits of identity politics and cultural Marxism, in that we're seeing how such an approach to coalition building has its limits. That's because with identity politics, we inevitably begin to see the interests of one group clashing with the interests of another group, right? I'm sure you're all aware of what the Democrats are doing with ICE, our Immigration Customs Enforcement. There is a very loud, far-left, cultural Marxist demand calling for the abolition of ICE and Immigration Border Enforcement, you know, all in the name of standing up for the supposedly oppressed Latino. But would you like to take a guess which constituent group, which demographic in the United States wants border enforcement perhaps more than any other demographic? You guessed it, blacks. A recent Harvard-Harris poll found that black voters favored reducing legal immigration. Did you hear that? Legal immigration. They favored reducing legal immigration more than any other demographic group surveyed. A whopping 85% of African Americans wanted less than the 1 million plus that we allow currently on an annual basis. And not only that, 54% of blacks opted for the most stringent choice in the survey, which was 250,000 migrants or less per year, or, if you can believe it, none at all. They wanted to stop immigration entirely. And as studies have demonstrated, this is perfectly rational. In an article in the Los Angeles Times, the journalist Dave Seminara documents study after study from the likes of Harvard economists and others that all corroborate that the number one demographic most negatively impacted by immigration, both legal and illegal, are young black men. This is not even a controversial point. The degree of certainty from the corroboration of these studies should settle any and all debates on this issue. Young black men are far more disenfranchised from Democrat-defended immigration policies than anything done by Republicans, bar none. So I would argue that here we are clearly seeing a clash between the political interests of two different groups within a coalition built on identity politics. You see, this is why the Democrats use fear and intimidation. They can't appeal to the logic of policies and political platforms, since doing so inevitably alienates one of their identity politics constituencies. Inevitably. So what they do instead is they push the whole notion of racism. This is precisely why we had the racist accusing headlines for the Covington Catholic school students at the March for Life splashed all over the news media. It's another way for the corporatist globalist media to say to blacks and Latinos, remember why you vote Democrat. You vote Democrat because if you don't, they'll want to put you back in your chains, as that borderline illiterate Joe Biden once said. Or as the two-time loser Hillary Clinton just said of the Republicans not too long ago, they want to send blacks back to the 1950s. This is what they have to do. They have to do this. Because the moment they get into policies, procedures, platforms, they inevitably alienate one of their constituencies built on a coalition of competing identities with competing interests. So, of course, we'll be keeping an eye on BLEXIT and how things develop here. And we wish God's richest blessings in this powerful new movement that is yet just another indicator of a vibrant conservative age rising in our midst. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Click on either our Patreon, subscribe star, or PayPal links below, and become a supporter of this channel and help us to continue to analyze current events in light of awesome conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. God bless.